Hi, John. I know it's only a couple of hours old, and we really didn't get a ton of information, but I'm curious your early takeaways from the new commissioner, Brett Yorkman, today.
Yeah, we didn't get any specific comments about like, hey, I'm after XYZ school, but I think that's probably to be expected, especially in a world where you don't want to tip your hand. I mean, I think back to USC, UCLA, and Texas, Oklahoma, how quiet it was. There was not a single leak basically until we actually found out the news that they were gone. So I think these things at the highest levels get kept pretty airtight, as amazing as that is to believe in 2022. But overall, I thought he came across as incredibly confident. I mean, honestly, played a lot to what my expectations would have been for him. Really confident, clearly has a vision of wanting to make the league like younger and hipper, which I thought was a great comment to hear. So just kind of a more dynamic product to offer there. He talked a lot about angling everything toward TV and wanting to make sure that whatever we do, we're adding value. I even listened to him a little bit after his podium press conference when he was just on with the ESPN crew, and he was evolving more on that point, talking about like, hey, I've already had conversations with the media partners about what can we do to add value. Everything is about adding value. And I think that's the right way to be thinking here. I wanted a real innovative thinker for the Big 12. I wanted somebody pretty forward thinking. And I think with his resume, it's clear that you got that, but you wanted to see it actually out in person today. And that came across, I think, loud and clear that this is a confident guy that wants to lead this league in a different direction than where it's been, frankly.
I followed you for a long time. I really enjoy your content, whether it's your YouTube channel, whether it's the podcast network. I know that you've done a lot of stuff with K-State, but obviously the Big 12 in general, you're very familiar with. And with you being out there in that area, I'm curious what the overall thought was from the universities involved when he was named, speaking of Brett Yorkman, when he was named the new commissioner. What was everybody's thoughts on that originally?
It seemed to be pretty universally appreciated by everybody, because I think most people realized the Big 12 was in a position where you needed something different. And nothing against Bob Bowlesby. I actually, I don't hold Texas, Oklahoma, everything that's happened against him as much as some do. I think he's been good for the Big 12 in a lot of ways, but he is more the old school, like longtime administrator, very kind of deadpan. This is high energy, opposite end of the spectrum. And I think that's what everybody wanted to see. And they want to see somebody with TV connections. And I think it's a great thing when you see in the release that the Big 12 put out about him being the new commissioner, you get a quote from the head of Fox Sports in there. I mean, that speaks volumes to some of the TV connections that this guy has. So I think most people really recognize that. The only dissent that I saw would be from somebody who was thinking more along the old school lines. Like, hey, we need somebody who is going to be who's been a long time college athletics administrator. But the fact of the matter is the game has changed so much in the last even 3 years that I just don't think that's the way to go anymore. It's a totally different game. It much more resembles the entertainment world or like the professional sports world, two areas where Brett Yormark has worked extensively. So I think most people, I would say like 80% of the feedback that I saw to it, most people were very, very receptive to that. And to be honest, I was a little bit surprised. I think people were kind of pleasantly surprised by what the Big 12 did in hiring him.
Yeah, and I keep saying Yormark. Brett Yormark is his name. And look, you mentioned the confidence that he showed earlier today, and that stood out to me as well. And I think that speaks to certainly putting forth this aura, not just about himself, but about what he wants this conference to be. So I guess my question is, how secure should the Big 12 feel right now after going through everything it has over the last year?
Yeah, there's always going to be some level of insecurity. I mean, I think some of that is just kind of baked into this after everything the Big 12's been through, not even just in the last year, but if you extrapolate it out to like the remaining 8 schools that were around back in 2010, when everything happened, when we went through the round of realignment with Nebraska, Mizzou, Texas A&M, Colorado, leaving the league. And it looked for a fleeting moment there, it looked like Texas and Oklahoma were going to the Pac-12 and that everything was going to be over. I mean, it's been twice now in the last decade that this faction of Big 12 fans has really had to deal with looking at their life in the mirror, like this is it, this could be it. So I think there's always going to be some level of insecurity. And honestly, just when the tectonic plates of realignment start moving, you always have to be worried about what domino is going to fall and what that will mean. Having said all of that, I think it's clearly a much more secure position than they were in a year ago. Even if, and I saw John Wilner, who was the guy that broke the initial USC UCLA report earlier today, said that he's expecting that the Pac-12 is going to at least stay intact throughout the football season, that it's probably going to be a while before anything were to happen if somebody were to leave. So even if that happens and the Pac-12 stays together for another year or two or whatever it's going to be, I think the Big 12 is still in a pretty good position. We're starting to see TV numbers trickle out. I know Jeffrey Fuller, who's a guy that does a lot of that on Twitter, put some out today that were very favorable to the Big 12, looking at, and these are all based on projections made by a third-party company, but the Big 12 could be fetching mid-40s to even the 50s in terms of millions per year in payout and TV contracts for each of the schools over the next 4, 5, 6 years. And I think that is just miles better than what we thought a year ago last year. And that's really the key in all of this, because that will not only provide you more money and let you be more competitive in the national landscape, but that's what the stability is all about. And when you talk about the Pac-12, I would venture a guess that their numbers are going to be lower than that. So that still, I think, puts you in a good position to pluck off the 4 corner schools at some point, even if it's not going to happen right now. So, yeah, I think basically everything that's happened since Texas and Oklahoma has been good. Adding the 4 schools that the Big 12 did very quickly, all the success on the field last year, not just by the teams in the current league, but obviously everybody else, Cincinnati, BYU, for instance, included in that, Houston too, with a tremendous season. Everything is really pushing in the direction of this league being more stable and more unified and together than they have been in a while, with the caveat that, yes, realignment, anything is possible.
Well, and Commissioner Yormark said, we're open for business. I mean, he mentioned that multiple times, so he's certainly not closing any doors. And while we're talking about that, and look, John, it's probably the unanswerable question, because anything can change, and it can change at a second's notice. But as we sit here today, what's your feeling when the dust settles? Is the Big 12 going to add teams from the Pac-12? Are they going to merge with the Pac-12, or are they going to stay put with the current members moving forward? Obviously, for a couple years with Texas, Oklahoma, and then after that without.
Yeah, it's, to me, a part of it is, okay, so when is the dust settling? When are we talking about the dust settling here? If we're talking about going into this football season, I feel like it's still going to be as currently composed. I doubt that you're going to pull off any of the 4 Pac-12 schools by that point. Now, in a year or two, or like by the time Texas and Oklahoma actually leave this league, I do still tend to lean toward the Big 12 is going to be able to pull away at least maybe 2 of those Pac-12 schools and add them to the league. I mean, there's been some talk of like Utah being a little more resistant to that, and Arizona being on the opposite end, where they really want to go and would have to find a dance partner essentially to come with them to the Big 12. Seems like there's enough smoke there, and I still think that the Big 12's TV contract, once everything gets sorted out, is going to be $15 to $20 million perhaps more per year than what the Pac-12's is. Again, based on some of these projections we're seeing, and just, I think, logic and putting 2 and 2 together here. That's just an educated guess on my part. Nobody's feeding me that information, but I would imagine that that's going to play out, and eventually that money and the extra stability, I think, that comes with the Big 12 right now, because the Pac-12 will be always waiting on Oregon and Washington to make their next move. I think that will win out in the end, but it's tough, and these kind of predictions can make you look pretty silly in conference realignment. So I fully understand that as I say that, but I think it will still happen to some extent. It just won't be as quickly as everybody thought it would be initially when USC and UCLA left, or perhaps as quickly as everybody wants it to happen.
With Texas and Oklahoma ultimately on their way out, I know there was a report that each university had a vote when it came to the new commissioner. How invested are they right now? How much are they participating? How much do they want to participate? Do we even know the answers to that right now?
It's a great question. There may be some that know the answers to those questions. I can't proclaim to say that I do. I thought it was interesting that they had a vote, and I get why. I mean, they are going to have this commissioner not only deal with the logistics of the league, but potentially negotiate whatever it is that they're going to negotiate to try and get out early. But it's tough for me to tell. It's tough for me to tell. And the distrust or mistrust of Texas and Oklahoma, everybody in the league comes by that very honestly. They were sitting on different committees, Texas and Oklahoma, while orchestrating this move to the SEC behind everybody's back, and made Bob Bowlesby out to look like a fool a year ago at Big 12 Media Days when he talked about the league being together and realignment probably not being a thing for a while. So it's just tough to know. I will say one thing about some of the logistics of that. We've really only seen reporting. Brian Davis from the Austin American Statesman, I know at one point said it would probably be 2024 at the earliest that Texas leaves. And that came within the last couple of months that he put that out. But outside of that, there's really been zero reporting from anybody, even in Austin, about when the exit is going to happen, which I think is pretty telling, because a lot of people around the Texas program like to talk. There are too many cooks in the kitchen, which I think is a big problem for Texas as far as their athletic success goes. That means there's a lot of people that want to talk and feel important and spread sources. There are also a lot of great journalists in Austin. I mean, the American Statesman is a great paper. So the fact that nothing has really gotten out, I think, means that Texas and Oklahoma have done a pretty good job of keeping a lot of that stuff under lock and key. And your best bet on that, I guess, would probably be to if you could get true serum in some of the ADs around the league, to ask them, like, how committed do you really feel like they are at this point? But I'm sure it's 1 foot in, 1 foot out kind of stuff for the most part, if I were to guess and speculate about Texas and Oklahoma. But I can't profess to know that answer for sure.
John Kurtz joining us here on BYU Sports Nation, our Big 12 insider. He's got his hand in podcasting, his YouTube channel, does some play-by-play stuff, and really happy to have you on the program today. Let's focus on what this conference will look like when the new schools, obviously speaking of the 4 that were added within the last year, what are your expectations for the conference beginning a year from now when all of these teams are together? It's a 14-team league. What do you envision the conference looking like and being able to do at that point?
I think it'll be awesome. I mean, I can't tell you how excited I am for a year of the 4 new schools coming in and Texas and Oklahoma still being there. Perhaps some organized chaos with that and trying to figure out scheduling and, if it's going to be divisions or some pods or however they're going to manage that. I think there will be some level of chaos to that. And even, look, Texas and Oklahoma, they don't want to go play those games. It's just such a lose-lose scenario for them to go play the 4 new schools, which is why I love it. I mean, I think, make Texas go play BYU again. I'm sure they still have some nightmares about how that went in the past. Make Oklahoma go to the bounce house and play UCF. I mean, heck, give Cincinnati a crack at these guys. How about Houston getting a chance at Texas? I mean, that's awesome to think about that kind of a game for those schools. So one, very happy for the 4 incoming schools in getting the opportunity to potentially do that. And so I think for a year, it's just going to be something that is totally different than anything we've experienced yet and would experience in the future. And my expectation still is that Texas and Oklahoma would probably find a way to get out after that. I don't think they're going to want to do more than just 1 year of that. But I think that year will be incredibly fun and everybody can kind of go play with house money, so to speak. Then after that, I think the part I'm most excited to see is just what natural rivalries kind of pick up within the league, because it will take some time for that. But no doubt, there will be some rivalries that form with the 4 newcomers in the league and everybody else. And it'll just be fascinating to see who it is that takes over as the top dog of the conference, if there's going to be one, because it just seems like a league that will be filled with so much parity. So when you pair that up with Yormark's vision, like a conference with parity where everybody is pretty good, maybe not necessarily great, and you're going to have a lot of really good, fun, entertaining games with new environments for some of these schools to go to, I just think it will be a wildly entertaining product. What that means as far as access to the playoff, what that will even look like at that point, how many teams will get there, will they truly have a chance at a national championship? I don't even know that it's fair to speculate about that at this point, but I do think this will be a league that people, like the college football fans, will find this league incredibly entertaining. I have no doubt about that. And then pair it with Yormark's vision, I think they can really emphasize some of the points of that and find different ways to really leverage that. And that's truly what I'm really excited to see.
Yeah, well, it goes without saying, BYU is certainly excited to be a part of it. And by all accounts, from everything you read and you hear, everybody's excited to have BYU in the Big 12. John, thank you so much for taking a few minutes. Always appreciate your time. Mentioned you have your hand in a lot of different things. For people that want to get your content, where can they find it?
Yeah, well, I really appreciate you guys having me. I definitely think we are excited to have BYU in the conference, and you'll see that on my YouTube channel. Getting to about 14,000 subscribers right now, which is primarily Big 12 fans. So it's a really cool community of Big 12 fans there. And I go live on Wednesday and Sunday, and you can just see in the chat, you can converse with a lot of Big 12 fans. I think there is a lot of excitement for the Cougars to be coming into the conference there. So would definitely suggest that. My YouTube channel is just my name, JOHNKURTZ. If you want to find me on there. If you want K-State specific content, I do a podcast called 3Ma on the KC Sports Network here in Kansas City, where I live. And then also you'll catch me every once in a while on a Big 12 Now and ESPN Plus broadcasts, whether that be for K-State or for the league. So I have my hand in some play-by-play. And you can follow me on Twitter, just JL Kurtz on Twitter if you want more daily content from me.
Look, KC guys, nothing wrong with that. I'm a KC guy. You're a KC guy. We're both Chiefs fans. So, hey, there's nothing wrong with this conversation at all, right?
Hey, okay, I didn't know that. Yeah, that's right, man.
Yeah.
We both we're both all about some Patrick Mahomes then.
That's right. That's right. John, great stuff. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time as always.
Hey, absolutely. Thanks, guys. Take care.